I'm not gonna lie to you guys, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between that. I'm suffering from a really bad tummy ache right now, and I'm being a very big boy about it. But regardless, we're gonna be talking about Sorry, I don't know what that was. Sorry. We're gonna be talking about Oh, that's strange. Okay. We're gonna be talking about Jimmy, the Beast games? There's been more, and I want to talk about it, because I made a video just a few days ago talking about his games, that guy, the man, the big man, the guy who makes videos talking about giving things away, how he's hosting a big game that hosted by Amazon Prime called the Beast Games. And I'm gonna do a quick synopsis of the Beast Games and what went down at them that was worth making an entire video out of, but if you want an actual in-depth investigation, check the video out somewhere on the app. Sorry. Essentially, what the Beast Games is a collaboration between Jimmy Donaldson and Amazon Prime, where in his biggest project so far, he's having 2,000 contestants compete in LA for $5 million. It's the biggest project we've ever seen so far, and honestly, we heard about it earlier in March, but haven't seen any signs of it since then, until an article dropped from Vital Vegas, some people who essentially pay attention to what's going on in their own hometown and spread it along as a little bit of, like, rumors and drama, a little bit of, what's the word for drama and rumors? Probably rumors and drama. I probably got that right the first time. Whatever. There is a site called Vital Vegas talking about some controversy that could have possibly sneaked its way out of the Beast Games, because anyone who's a part of these Beast Games had to sign an NDA. They couldn't possibly reach out and talk about what went on inside of the Beast Games, despite the fact that there was supposedly, allegedly, possibly people being sent to the hospitale, which means they were being harmed to the point of needing medical treatment, which is bad. That's not very good. And, of course, with these people signing NDAs, there's no possible way that anyone could have ever reached out to me and talked to about their personal experiences at the Beast Games, because that would be illegal. That would be against the law. They could be sued for lots of money, unless, of course, an NDA becomes void once crime happens. Maybe, possibly, but that's not what's important. We're gonna get our MCU vibes. We're gonna dive headfirst into the multiverse and enter a reality where they could have done that. They could have possibly talked to me about their personal experiences at the Beast Games and how they saw people get harmed and maybe confirm my beliefs and suspicions. I don't know. That's just why we're here, to sit in front of a video. But I want to first talk about something that had my brain itching ever since I made that initial video, and that is, people were saying that I was trying to attack our boy Jimmy Donaldson, the Beast Man, the Beast Meister, if I may, and I want to clear that up really quickly, because this video, that video that I made, wasn't created with the intention to be a hit piece on Jimmy. I wasn't trying to throw this together to end MrBeast or cancel his career. He does a lot of good philanthropy. I don't know if you guys know about this. He does charity work, and I think that's very good, but I also think that regardless of how good your actions you commit are, you should not be able to get away with anything. And so when you make a mistake like that, you should be called out for it. And alongside that, I don't even think Jimmy's the all to blame here. I mean, Amazon, the people that he's teaming with, the people that Jimmy decided to work with for this project, because, of course, he says in a podcast, they gave him full creative freedom to do whatever he wants. Well, Amazon doesn't exactly have a great track record with keeping people in safe conditions. There's, of course, issues that get swept under the rug all the time, like the situation in Minnesota from the Minnesota Reformer talking about how Amazon did not protect workers from ergonomic hazards while picking, packaging, and shipping products in their factories, which ergonomic hazards is just a fancy word for saying their back hurty, their body hurty, they got hurty. Or an article that I read from The Independent talking about how 90% of Indian workers from Amazon factories don't even have enough time to go to the bathroom. They're just being mistreated. This is starting to sound like Amazon being unable to handle its company, you know, and put its money in the right places. With it being so bad, of course, that UNI Global Union has made articles talking about how on Amazon Prime Day, 45 out of 100 workers are usually harmed during the day during their work shifts. What? That's a crazy statistic. You have a coin's flip chance of being harmed on work duty if you're working for Amazon on Prime Day. Oh, by the way, just a little note to add. So, I know that sounds bad, right? The worst day of the year, Prime Day. Of course Amazon's gonna have a bad time. Well, don't worry. The statistic for any normal day is 10 out of 100 people. So, no matter what, still, you got a 10% chance of getting harmed pretty bad. Oh, and another little side note. Apparently, they have records as well of trying to heal very bad injuries on site instead of taking them to a hospital, so they don't get reported for any, you know, misconduct in the workplace. So, that's really good to know, and sounds a lot like some sort of game show we've been talking about recently. I don't know. Maybe. That's so cool. So, of course, Amazon Prime collaborating with Jimmy, who, you know, is a squeaky clean guy who always likes to try and cover his tracks whenever he makes a mistake, would be a dynamic duo of possible issues getting swept under the rug if an issue were to ever possibly allegedly arise at these said Beast games. But to start things off, I want to talk about the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement that's scaring all of these contestants from coming out about any of the information going on within the Beast games, which makes sense to a certain extent. You wouldn't want people coming out and talking about what's going on in the Beast games if you're going to release it as a video, you know? But allegedly, if people are being harmed, this is stopping people from releasing very pertinent information. And in some sort of reality, not this one, of course, Evan could have received information about how much money people would lose if they were to void this NDA, if they were to disclose information they're not necessarily allowed to disclose. And of course, that money ranges anywhere in some sort of reality from $100,000 to $500,000, which is more than $3. That's a lot of money, and kind of crazy, because if that is true, like if 10 people out of the 2,000 whistle blew and disclosed information about the Beast games, he'd make all of the $5 million prize money back, if, of course, someone miraculously survived long enough to actually win the money. And alongside the information we talked about in the first video, where allegedly people were having their medication taken from them so they didn't have them during the games, and then being unable to reach it later, alongside possibly being harmed physically and sent to the hospital, but no one being disclosed about this information besides people going to the hospital and asking them, bless you, why are you interrupting me? And figuring out about how many people could have been harmed only through them and not by the Beast games themselves, saying apparently only 3 people were harmed, and 2 of them had nothing to do with the game, where the hospital saying that there were more people than they could count. Something's not, math ain't mathin', something ain't adding up. And of course, I learned, alongside the poor treatment of possible clientele, there's also information regarding people, when they are eliminated, being sent out and having to leave after only receiving like 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night, leave at 7:30 in the morning, and then have to get out of the hotel room by 11 a.m. because the room closes. You're getting sent to LA to fail a Beast game and then not even be allowed to exist in LA for more than like 3 hours. I also, in some universe, and not this one of course, that would never happen, had my worst suspicions confirmed that diabetics, my fellow failed pancreas gang, were the worst treated of all of them. There were people walking around looking for Feastables, MrBeast's chocolate brand, because they needed sugar so badly, which is crazy because chocolate is one of the worst sugars to consume at first when you have low blood sugar because it has fat in it, and fat makes sugar process slower. So my poor diabetics are being tortured out there, allegedly. And that makes me a little mad. That makes me, dare I say, a little peeved. Alongside this, there were a few other things that were confirmed and denied from the allegations we went over in the first video, such as like celiac disease. They said that people with celiac disease were given bread, which would make them shit themselves. That didn't actually happen. There was no bread because, as we talked about in the first video, they were given what they called, quote unquote, a hideous porridge. What are you in, like, Arkham Asylum? All around, my theory in the first video was that this came down to poor planning, and I think it's a combination of that as well as just no planning, period. There was apparently a lot of information that was released from some of the people who worked alongside Jimmy's team, because it wasn't just Jimmy's team hosting this. This was hosted by Jimmy and Amazon Prime, so there was a lot of freelance groups working within the compound and the area where all the games were going down. And I've heard, I haven't heard a thing. But some Evan, in some reality, heard that one of the big issues as well is that some of the staff were just extremely unsympathetic, which is crazy hearing that happened alongside some staff just walking out because of how poor the conditions were for the contestants. So in some reality, or like 616 or something, I don't know. Overall, though, one of the most informative points that I could have allegedly in some reality might have received was that the biggest thing it came down to was poor communication. Because, as I talked about, medication was being withheld from people. People were not receiving their insulin. Diabetics weren't getting it when they needed it. People weren't receiving sugar when they needed it. Certain people were not receiving just their thyroid medicine or other medicine when they needed it, which was extremely important, and kind of just came down to you could have gotten it whenever you wanted, but no one was shown where to get it, no one was shown how to get it, and as a result, people just weren't getting it, which is something you can't have. You need that level of communication when you're hosting a game this big. I understand the games themselves being hard. I even have seen comments where people are like, if you're harmed during the games, it's up to you. You could drop out whenever you want, and I get that. Although I disagree. I feel like if you're in a game, the worst thing that should happen to you should be you getting eliminated, not breaking a leg or dying. But I think that the whole thing behind the scenes and medicine just not being properly shown to the people who needed it is horrible. Like, there is no way to refute that. None of that is okay. And alongside that, I have a follow-up for the undergarment situation, which sounds admittedly kind of weird for people who didn't watch the first video. There was a situation where people allegedly had to take off their undergarments, the garments that they wear under their garments, and they had to take those off so that they could put on the Beast game jersey that they then had to hide with a trash bag so people couldn't see it in 108-degree LA weather. And so what happened was, after they were eliminated from the game, I guess because everything was so unorganized and there are 2,000 people in the building, a lot of people ended up not getting their undergarments back. So they had to leave going commando back home, and that's a bit demeaning after losing the Beast games. But apparently, I, in some sort of reality, could have received DMs from people saying that they had it mailed back to them in the mail. They had their undergarments sent to them via mail. Thank God, I finally have it back after getting home from LA. This is everything I needed. Big Beastie Gym Dog was like, "Would you like some underwear with that L?" Oh my God. Okay, wait, that's enough. Calm down, guys. Stop it. All this is really rough, and I wanted to make a follow-up essentially just letting you guys know that some of this information in some reality was confirmed. And that's really scary because it's still being swept under the radar. I don't know if you guys realize, but when I made that first video, in the first 2 hours, we hit 13,000 views. And then the next day, only 1,000 more views came through. This is a chart of the viewership in that video after the first 48 hours. And you're telling me YouTube isn't protecting Jimmy? Okay, alright. Alongside this, with the whole situation with the YouTuber who I don't want to even say the name of because he was shadowbanned instantly after claiming that he used to work for MrBeast and then exposed a bunch of illegal gambling that he was doing within his company. And that's also really bad. I'm not going to go ahead and talk about that right now because I don't want this video to get shadowbanned. I want to get this information that I have out to the public. But it's really, really weird when a lot of information's coming out about Jimmy, especially right after the Ava situation. This poor soul is taking every bit of damage to his career that he could possibly take. But all this information's coming out about him, and it's being covered up so well. It's too weird. At first, I thought it was Amazon. I thought Amazon was paying off because this is an Amazon Prime production, paying off people to try and make sure none of the information would get out. But this is more than that. The idea that this information about Beast with the gambling stuff and now this information about people getting hurt on his watch is all getting completely just flatlined on the YouTube algorithm. It's itching me the wrong way. It's leaving an itch on my back that I can't quite reach. I'm not going to lie to you guys right now. No way, no how. I'm not going to sit here and say Beast is evil, though. I'm not going to say that he is the worst human being on the planet because I don't think any of you guys have gone out and built a bunch of wells in Africa or cured a bunch of blind folk. He does some good things, and I think that he should continue doing those good things. But as I said, if you do a bad thing, you gotta be held accountable. Regardless of the good things that you do and the charity work you do, you can't get away with murder, you know? It's not actual murder. I'm just using that as a saying. Don't worry, I'm not claiming that he murdered anybody. Hopefully. God, that would be horrible. But of course, though, I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I saw a lot of comments in the last video that were very informative, talking about this being the fault of Amazon, being the fault of Jimmy, this being Jimmy's downfall, which I disagree with. He has a lot more in store, and I feel like he has the potential to do good. I just think that responsibility needs to be taken for the mistakes that you make. But for now, I'm going to be hitting the road. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you're new. I'd really appreciate it because I make videos all the time. Usually a little more silly, but I wanted to cover this because I don't like when people try to hide things. It makes me a little mad, a little unhappy. But for now, I'm going to hit the road. So thank you guys for being here. YouTube, don't airstrike me. And as always, adios, arrivederci, goodbye, good night. And she Jimmy on my beast until I have my life destroyed by countless allegations. That sounds horrible. Get out of my video.